So the first season of Percy Jackson has just come to a close, and I felt like this was one of the biggest cases of missed potential recently in the TV show space. Now before you go kill me in the comments, let me explain. First of all, I enjoyed the season. It was good. It wasn't great, but it was good. I've grown up on Percy Jackson and the Heroes of Olympus books, and Rick's work has been a huge part of my childhood. I even remember eagerly waiting for each Heroes of Olympus book to drop, and the absolute peak fiction that hit my eyes every single time I got my hands on one of these bad boys. Rick has truly blessed us with one of the best universes in the young adult industry, and this video is not meant to send hate or harm to anyone on the show, whether that is Rick, Walker, or any other actors. Spoiler warning for anyone who has not seen the first season of Percy Jackson. More than anything, watching the show meant a lot to me, just because of how much it reminded me of my childhood. I read The Lightning Thief for the first time around 12 years ago when I was in middle school. Back then, the biggest takeaway I had was that the book was incredibly adventurous, mysterious, and fun. Rick has always managed to trick readers with brilliant twists in every single book and has integrated those moments so naturally. However, this show, for some reason, feels a need to explain quite literally everything, to the point where even the characters who are experiencing the story for the first time themselves know what's going to happen or will happen in the future. If anything, the show tried to actively suck out any fun, mystery, or adventure out of the show, which was so baffling to me. Now before I get into all of that, I do want to reiterate the fact that I had a lot of fun watching this show. I really loved a lot of the sets used for the show, like Camp Half-Blood, looked exactly as I envisioned in my head when I read these books as a child. The Underworld, which Percy and the gang visit in episodes 6 and 7, looked completely different to what I thought it would look like, but I honestly felt like the void, empty, and cold underworld was a phenomenal adaptation of what the underworld would actually be like. Olympus was also a highlight, and it looked absolutely incredible. Grand and royal, yet terrifying. I felt like a lot of the sets that the show implemented were amazing. I also do love the trio. They truly embody the cast perfectly. Percy is an amazing protagonist, balancing humor, wit, and heroic moments all in the adventures that he embarks upon in each book. This is reflected well in Walker Scobell, who I feel has embodied Percy really well. He doesn't get to show it too often, sadly, because the script makes a lot of these characters a little bland. Leah Jeffries is really good as Annabeth. I felt like her performance was a really good answer to all the people who were criticizing her casting as Annabeth just because of the color of her skin. Arian was also a brilliant cast decision. He really does feel like Grover in real life. Timid, yet cheerful and upbeat with a slight edge, Arian was perfect for this role. Casting these three kids is genuinely one of the best decisions that the show has made, and the potential that the three have is endless. I'm genuinely so happy that we got three really great actors for the trio. Episode 1 and 2 were a great start to the story, especially with the extra attention given to Sally Jackson, which was one of the best additions to the story. It feels like we've been given a totally new character in Sally by the show, and that was a phenomenal job from Rick and the screenwriters. Episode 4, 7, and 8 were also really good, with the finale showing what Percy truly is like. I felt that when the show actually has to get on with some action set pieces, it actually did quite well, since it didn't have the chance to exposition dump the audience over and over again. The trio also really start to gel together well by the finale, and you can truly see the dynamic being born as the show goes on. The gods, I felt, were also casted pretty well, with Zeus and Poseidon being the best of the lot. Ares, Hermes, and Mr. D were cast pretty well too. The issues, though, do start here. I felt like a lot of the gods were shown too early in the show. The gods also felt a little bit too normal, in my opinion. Like, I get the fact that they're supposed to be blending in, and that they are very much flawed, but Hermes, Ares, and Hephaestus never really felt like they had that godlike aura to them. Especially Ares. While I enjoyed the restaurant scene with Ares, I never felt like he showed that true godlike aura in the show, like how Lance Reddick, rest in peace, showed in the last episode. The gods, while in society, should still exude that aura of omnipotence, which wasn't conveyed well in a lot of the scenes of the show. Okay, now before I go into some of the negatives of the show, as you guys can see, quite literally 99% of the people who watch my channel haven't subscribed to me. Go on, press that red button. Alright, now let's get back to the show. When it comes to the story being conveyed and shifted into a TV show, it was not really well done in the first place. Show, don't tell is the golden rule of show and movie making, and honestly, this show's ethos was truly tell, don't show. This show has way too much exposition. We see more yapping between the cast, just talking about stuff that happened or will happen, than actually seeing them do the things that they talk about. Genuinely, it feels like I'm watching actors just read out the book aloud with some of the sets at times. It absolutely ruins the pacing of the show and grinds it to a halt, while also simultaneously speedrunning every part of it episode by episode. Any semblance of tension disappears when the characters, who are in dangerous situations, just walk slowly and yap the whole time in a scene. For example, a scene I remembered particularly was the Minotaur scene in episode 1, where Percy, Grover, and his mom were walking around talking 2 minutes after they got out of the car, and the car was crashed by the Minotaur. Only when they stopped giving exposition, the Minotaur came back and started attacking again. Things like this ruin any tension present in the scene and derail the tone of the show. Another consequence of this type of writing is that Percy, Annabeth, and Grover, and any other main character feels extremely watered down and dull. I think part of this can be attributed to the fact that these are really young kids, and that's fine, but the script itself doesn't really give the kids a lot to work with to begin with. Percy in the show is such a charismatic character, but in the first few episodes especially, Percy felt rigid. Percy in the books is such a charismatic character, but in the first few episodes especially, Percy felt super rigid. I'm not too worried about this though, because the outpour of discourse over this issue has been massive. Walker and the trio also felt more natural as the show went on as well, which gives me more hope. The final complaint I have, I swear it is the final one, is that the show is terrified of showing action. I didn't really get it. Whenever there was any big action sequence that was about to show up, we would have said action scene for 1 or 2 minutes and it just cuts to black. I really don't understand the show's obsession with cutting to black. Show us the scene. This could be due to budget concerns, but honestly I don't know any other reason why the action sequences were generally so short. The one sequence that really pissed me off was a scene in episode 5, where Percy and Annabeth fall into the water inside the Tunnel of Love. We finally see Percy use his powers for the first time, and then it just cuts to black. What? The show really doesn't like to show action sequences, and we barely even see Percy use his powers in the show. This was my biggest pet peeve, because a young adult show about adventure lives and dies by the adventure and action it has. After all the exposition dumping that the characters do, the only action we get is then cut short by cutting to black. We even had this in the Ares scene. The show built up to that Ares scene and it was over in 90 seconds. I hope this gets fixed next season. Overall, even though I've been kinda negative about the show, I still did very much enjoy it. It was almost like a full circle moment from my childhood coming to revisit me again in my university years, and it's been amazing to see the incredible world of Percy Jackson come to life. I'm really excited to see that the show has been renewed for its second season, and I'm hoping that either the pacing improves or we get more episodes so that the show can truly progress into a mega hit. The show has all the fundamentals in terms of actors, story, and the sets. All we need to do is fix up the writing a little bit and sprinkle in some more action. I'm genuinely so excited for the future of this show. I hope that Percy Jackson does reach the levels of popularity that Harry Potter has reached. Either way, I'll definitely be there watching the show to support Rick and his universe. Thank you so much for watching, like and subscribe, and peace.